Oh, I just read the name on this one.
Yeah,
like,
the name is irrelevant. This actually has
Yeah.
nothing to do with like the person, obviously.
Okay.
This is a Larry Crone post, right? And this is not really anything against him. Right?
Okay.
This is just the post is a little interesting.
Okay.
Right. So he posted something October 8th. He said, the Porcupine post created a lot of conversation. That's good for dog training. Most dogs will still go after porcupines and skunks, even though they receive an extremely unpleasant aversive. Dog trainers do the same with behavioral issues. So I'm going to make an assumption of what he's alluding to with this. I don't know what the porcupine post is, but I'm assuming it's a post that he posted of a dog that you've seen the videos of. They get into a porcupine, they got the fucking quills all over them. They need to get them all pulled out, stuff like that, right? So what I think he's alluding to here is punishment isn't the solution for behavioral issues because, see, it doesn't work in the case of porcupines and skunks.
Okay.
That's my assumption.
All right.
Does that feel, do you feel like that might be it? Do you have a different assumption of that?
No, I agree.
Okay. So let's break down why I think that's a little bit of a false statement.
Yeah. Give it to me.
Okay. There are some rules when it comes to punishment. Right? Let's use let's stay true to the example of porcupines and skunks. Okay. So dog goes after a porcupine. They get fucking quilled up. Right? Oh yeah, you're doing that. Right. They go after the porcupine. They get quilled up. Yep. Right? Obviously, it's probably pretty painful. Right?
Yeah.
But they keep going after porcupines in the future.
Yeah.
Why would that be the case? Well,
because they want to.
what are the rules with punishment? Has to be contingent and unavoidable, right? Meaning it happens every time.
Yeah.
They can't avoid the consequence for going after the porcupine, right? And it has to be motivating enough in order for them to want to avoid it moving forward in the future. So if you're telling me that your dog went after a porcupine, they got quilled, you are perceiving it to be an extremely unpleasant aversive, but they are still continuing to do it, either that aversive actually wasn't as powerful as you thought it was,
Yeah.
or they were not able to adequately connect that aversive to the act of going after the porcupine because it was either inconsistent or the main bulk of the aversion didn't happen until well after the fact.
Okay.
Right? Help me break this down clearer.
Okay. So, so like in the instance of the porcupine, why would they still go after the porcupine even though it hurts them? So you're saying, well, I guess it would be very inconsistent because maybe not every time they get hurt when they go after the porcupine.
And let's look at this, right? Is your dog chasing a porcupine versus your dog chasing other animals the same or different?
Probably the same.
It's pretty similar, I would say.
Yeah, I'd say
right?
the same.
So what we're saying then immediately is let's say in a year, your dog chases 100 animals,
Yeah. Okay.
right? And let's say even 2 of those animals were porcupines or skunks, right? And yes, it was extremely unpleasant and aversive in that moment, right? Well, that's only a 2 out of 100 chance that something unpleasant is going to happen in the presence of an extremely self-motivated or a self-reinforcing behavior like chasing an animal.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I'd take that gamble.
I mean, come on. like if you're a gambling man, you like those odds.
Yeah, I'm taking those odds.
You're going to take those fucking odds.
Yeah.
So this is a false example of punishment. The reason why I kind of didn't like this, right? And like I said, I'm not picking on him specifically. It doesn't have to do with him. I'm just talking about the statement. But like, it's a false statement. It's implying punishment doesn't work, but inconsistent punishment doesn't work, right?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
That's all it is. But let's say hypothetically, chasing porcupines itself is one thing. It's not all animals. It's just porcupines. Let's give a little credit here, right?
Okay.
Well, when does the truly unpleasant aversive happen, right? Well, we could say every time they chase a porcupine, they get quilled, right? But they're continuing to do it.
Yeah.
Well, that behavior was not extremely and unpleasant of an aversive enough in order to deter the behavior. So that's where you get to the second rule of it. You got consistency, and then you have the second rule of it, which is it motivating enough to want to avoid moving forward? Maybe to them, going after that porcupine and killing that porcupine, even though they got quilled, was more reinforcing than them getting quilled up.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. It was worth it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So it was worth it, right? So we're looking at this from different lights.
Yeah.
Let's look at it from another light here, right? They go after the porcupine, they get quilled, but in that moment, their adrenaline is so high that they don't feel it. That happens a lot, right? When dogs are really that in the zone, their pain threshold goes through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
But the repercussions of that later on are very aversive, right? Surgery, sore for the next 3 days. They really don't want that to happen, stuff like that. But at that point, that aversion, right, that extremely unpleasant aversion that maybe they would want to avoid moving forward is not adequately connected to chasing the porcupine. It's something that's happening after the fact. And your dog isn't connecting the dots. They're not like using this like reasoning and logic to be like, oh yeah, all these things that just happened over the next 3 days are because I chased that porcupine.
Yeah, they have no
right?
idea.
Wasn't successfully attached to it. That's another reason why that may not be the case.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes sense, yeah.
So again, the reason why I brought this one up is because I don't like these like punishment works. It just does.
Yeah.
I used the example before of like negative reinforcement works. It just does.
It just does.
Right?
Yeah.
But it has to follow the rules of negative reinforcement or the rules of punishment, which is it happens 100% of the time, right? Mm-hmm. It's unavoidable.
Yeah.
It's motivating enough. And they could connect that motivating aversion to the behavior that you're trying to actually stop.
Yeah. Yeah, there's...
So to his credit, dog trainers do the same with behavioral issues. Yes, dog trainers do the same of applying inconsistent punishment, not clearly attaching the punishment to the behavior, and not being motivating enough with their punishment. Dog trainers do that all the time. So let's say he's looking at it from that lens. I agree.
Yeah.
I just feel like he's looking at it from the lens of like, look, like... the drives outweigh punishment. Like there's this level where in which like you can't stop a behavioral issue with punishment.
Yeah.
Just you have to change the punishment. You got to make sure you're being clear and motivating with it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of those things where you can just interpret it in about 30 different ways, And I don't think it really I don't think it sends a clear message of what he was trying to like.
Yeah, and he's kind of the king of like posting these like elusive comments to like spark conversation, know. So I'm curious to the listeners, if you interpreted that in a different way. I'm curious how you interpreted it. I just interpreted it as a little bit of a dig on people that use punishment to stop behavioral issues.